Done. Really, sir? I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Hamilton County Board of Education. A roll call, please.
Chairman Highlander.
Here.
Vice Chairman Jones.
Here.
Mr. Galloway.
Here.
Mrs. Lennon.
Here.
Mrs. Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Testerman.
Here.
Mrs. Thurman.
Here.
Mr. Wingate.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Superintendent Dr. Johnson.
Here. Thank you very much. We need the approval of the agenda, please. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Pardon me?
We need to do the
Okay, sorry, they didn't read the amendments, my fault. Let me read, the agenda, look at the approval. Let's see. Gotta get this. We're looking at addition, exemplars of excellence. I don't have that sheet in front of me.
Blue sheet, right here.
Here we go. Sorry, I got it here now. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't have that in front of me. I received the following request to amend the agenda before we vote on it. Change item 5 to exemplars of excellence. NJROTC, the Howard School recognition is the most improved program in Area 9. Colonel Tom McCullough, and renumber remaining items. Under item 6, item 5 on the original agenda, presentations, remove calendar adjustments, Dr. Nakia Towns-Edwards. Under Roman numeral 9, item 8, Roman numeral 8 on the original agenda, approval of the consent agenda, 1 field trips, add 1 A1 CSAS field trip to Tono, Japan. Under item 10, item 9 on the original agenda, administrative business matters, add human resources, finance, Keith Fogelman and Don Hall. Did I get that correct, Mr. Fogelman?
That's correct.
Thank you. Number 1, FY18 retirement incentive. Under Roman numeral 11, item 10 on the original agenda, board matters, add C, architectural selection, Justin Witt, and add item D, calendars 2018-19 and 2019-20, Kim Hensley. Now we may call for the approval. Okay,
Move to approve. Move to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Thank you very much. It is now my great privilege. Pardon?
roll call.
I'm sorry, roll call on the approval. My fault.
Mr. Galloway.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yeah.
Mrs. Lennon.
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Testerman.
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman.
Yes.
Mr. Wingate.
Yes.
Chairman Howland.
Yes. I got excited because of our next presenter, who is a very dear personal friend, an outstanding educator, and someone who means so much to education in Hamilton County. And I believe Ms. Jones has known her longer than I have.
I have.
But, and you would not disagree with anything I've said, have you?
No, I would not.
But she is a wonderful lady, a great example of an administrator, and a person who really cares about children. And we're very honored to have from my district, District 9, Mrs. Sharon Dodds, principal of Wallace Smith Elementary School, to do our pledge to the flag and meditation. Mrs. Dodds.
Good afternoon to Superintendent Brian Johnson, to Dr. Steve Highlander, our board chair. It is indeed a pleasure to be here to do the meditation on behalf of Wallace A. Smith.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide the inspirational thought to open this board meeting. Since yesterday was Valentine's Day, a day when we as educators question our sanity, intentionally creating undue stress and increased blood pressure as we fill our students with candy, snacks, and sugar drinks during the Valentine's Day party, I thought it would be appropriate to broach the topic of love. A couple of years ago, my pastor presented a message on love that I've tried to make a part of my life. The basis of it came from what is known as the love chapter, and in particular the section that I would like to read right now. It says that love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. And in particular, this section here, it always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. While this passage on love has significance in religious life, the applications can be powerfully incorporated into our professional life in the manner that we treat our cohorts, our parents, and especially our students. The text is written in such a way that it refers to the characteristics of love as actions happening in the future tense. As we read in the verse 7, the words protect, trust, hope, and persevere gives us instruction how love always deals with the indiscretions of those individuals with whom we associate. It first directs that love always protects. In this case, the word protect has two meanings. The first meaning of the word is to cover up. When an impropriety occurs, we are directed to rectify the situation as quietly as possible, not to hide it, but to correct it with discretion. The second meaning of the word refers to the act of endurance, meaning that however ugly the situation might be, as we as leaders and teachers will not only apply correction discreetly, but also stand with the individual through thick and thin during the rectification. The next two words that are mentioned are trust and hope. These words deal with the unknown. Trust is willing to give a person the benefit of the doubt. If a cohort or student is guilty of a misdeed, we are instructed to begin the process of restoration and rebuild the trust that had once existed. The hope within us will help us through the process by seeing the future of a repaired, whole relationship and give us the impetus to continue rebuilding this trust to its conclusion. Finally, we are exhorted to persevere. The very essence of a correction to a wrongdoing never has a smooth glide path to restoration. Yet, we are urged to hold on to the restorative steps no matter what comes down the pike.
So in conclusion, when a cohort or one of our students commits a transgression, we are told that love first demands that we quietly protect and stand by the offending individual until a solution can be attained. Next, we are directed to rebuild the trust that has been broken with hope, giving us the encouragement to see the restoration to a conclusion. Finally, love tells us to persevere through the uncertain process. Love never fails.
On behalf of the students at Wallace A. Smith Elementary School, we're passing a little love with our little hands to you. Thank you for having a big heart when you make decisions for us.
Well, We have, my brother's talking to me.
This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
Awesome. Keep playing video with you guys. Take all the points.
Oh.
And I
I would love to shake your hand. Thank you, boys and girls. Thank you so much. He's a handsome boy, Miss Thurman.
It's hereditary.
You take that to Grandpa?
My granddaughter's back here somewhere. This was a surprise. I didn't know it was going to be.
Thank you. We'll let you guys continue. Thank you so much.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
That was a nice surprise.
The reading was wonderful, but the young people were fabulous. Thank you so much. Before we go any further, if you will let me have just one moment of executive privilege, if I could, in view of the loss of lives in Florida, could we take just a moment of silent meditation, please? Thank you so much. Thank you. If we could move on now, exemplars of excellence. I call on Colonel Tom McConnell with a presentation for the NJROTC Howard School Recognition, Most Improved School, Area 9.
How do you follow on that? Like, I have no candy to play. Chairman Highlander, members of the school board, Superintendent Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed my honor today to recognize the Navy Junior ROTC unit at the Howard School for being selected by the Navy League of the United States of America as the most improved unit in Area 9. Now, this is no small achievement, since Area 9 is in fact a 6-state region covering Tennessee all the way out to New Mexico. So this most improved JRTC unit in a 6-state area joins Hamilton County Public Schools as the fastest improving school district in this state. We're all improved. Under new leadership by Lieutenant Commander Dirk Ames, this NJRTC unit's taken on new dimension and upward direction in a way, quite frankly, that I've not seen in my 24 years of Overwatch. Their participation and accomplishments are, in fact, unprecedented. 8 academic orientation and training visitation trips, leadership training summer camp, 10 academic and athletic scholarships, a first-time ever girls state scholarship. They fielded competitive teams in drill, color guard, marksmanship, and a first-time ever started Raider team and robotics team. Before I invite Superintendent Johnson down to present the plaque, let me first introduce to you Miss Stacy Kehoe and ask her to come join me at the podium. Stacy's the Vice President, Secretary, and Director of Youth Programs for our local Navy League chapter, and she also started the Sea Cadet program here in this area. Stacy.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Greater Chattanooga Navy League Council, I congratulate Howard High School on such a wonderful achievement. Congratulations, Commander Ames.
Dr. Johnson, would you join me up front? Plaque, and would Lieutenant Commander Ames and Assistant Principal Davis please come forward?
Thank you, Colonel, as always. Presentations now, the county working group update. I'll call on Dr. Johnson.
Great, I want to ask Mr. Tim Kelly and Mr. Larry Bowie to come forward. If you all recall back several months ago, the mayor commissioned a working group to kind of take a broad look at the system, and we appreciate the work that that group has done. Several business leaders and community leaders that they've progressive thinking, and just want to give them an opportunity to share some of the highlights from what they observed and took in.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, as much as anything, just for general information, the budget working group was composed of a group of local business leaders, including Larry and I, who were asked to look at the Hamilton County Department of Education really more organizationally and structurally. We spent how many months, Larry? About 6 months working on this, and produced a lengthy report, which I think most of you have seen. And we just wanted to come and say that we are thrilled and really encouraged by the progress made thus far. We felt really the single most important immediately was the addition of really the highest quality C-suite talent to help Dr. Johnson devise and drive more strategic thinking throughout the organization, and he has done that. We're very encouraged and excited by the recent hires that he's made, and I'm sure you must be as well. Without that crucial first step, we don't feel like further progress would have been possible. So we're here to support that, and going forward, we hope the board will support Dr. Johnson in his efforts to address the other critical areas in the report, such as student-teacher ratios, technology gaps at the system and platform level, and a more strategic use of technology, a more flexible and market-based compensation strategy for teachers, and a building plan that includes wise and thoughtful consolidation to allow for the most efficient use of resources. Larry, you have anything to add?
The only thing I'd like to add, it was a pleasure working with the group, and one of the major things I think this group needs to know, we were not a group of educators. We don't profess to really understand everything that goes into education. We were looking for synergies, some of those things that could help identify best practices, not to recommend, but to share it as a takeaway. So again, we're not educators, but we do understand the business model, and we think that there are some opportunities where education and the business community could really align, and our main outcome is the benefit of the kids.
Gentlemen, thank you both so much, and the entire group has put a lot of work into it, and Dr. Johnson and I have listened in, and we've gleaned a lot from it. Thank you so much. Let's give them a hand, please.
Can I ask a question? If anybody wants to see your report, is there a place that we can find it?
It's on the internet.
Yeah, it's. I think it was posted along with a News Free Press article.
Okay.
So it's on.
So the only place to find it would be on the Times Free Press
We
website?
can certainly make it available
Okay.
to the board for further dissemination.
Yeah.
It's long. The executive summary is 60 pages. And the full report's longer than that, but certainly we can make it available to you to disseminate however you see fit.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Thurman, did you have a?
No, I was just gonna say I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I printed it off.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much again. Teaching and Learning Reorganization, Dr. Justin Robertson.
Chairman Highlander, members of the board, appreciate the opportunity to present some of the things that we've been working on in the department and looking at reorganization and how we better serve students throughout Hamilton County. Want to make, just so that we're all on the same page from the beginning, these changes are budget neutral. We're looking at this in a very budget neutral way, in a manner, again, that serves students better at the school level. Current positions within our department, this is what we've traditionally called operations and curriculum instruction. And just so you have in front of you a list of the current assets within those departments and how they're being utilized. So we've had several conversations throughout the community with community groups, with some teacher groups, also with principals, and just from some of the interactions Dr. Johnson's had with community. And here's some concerns that we've heard, and I'm not going to go through each of these, but I'm going to point out a couple of key bullet points. First one, the diverse and unique communities that we have within Hamilton County. It's a broad and wide county, and the needs of each community are very different. Another concern that we've had are the last two bullet points is lack of communication, lack of clarity of who to communicate with. One thing that we've heard several times from the community is, who's your go-to person at central office, and people aren't quite clear who that is. Within the department, some of the things that we've been concerned with, and again, I'm not going to go into detail with each of these bullets, but I'm going to point out a couple. The first one, we looked at this in a way that if we're not improving our strengths and reducing the gaps in services, then we're just shuffling the deck, and we wanted to avoid that. We're looking to make sure that we're improving our strengths and that the gaps in our services are reduced. The second one, reducing variability. A lot of people have asked, what do we mean by variability? Well, I'll look at it from a really simple illustration of when we go from one classroom to the next. We're going from one second grade classroom to another second grade classroom. The level of instruction, quality of instruction should be similar. And right now we're concerned that we're seeing variability across the district. Second one that I want to point out is the second to last bullet. We're looking intently at programs that are possibly underutilized or that we're not getting the rate of return that we would like to see on our investment. I'll give you an example, which is Edgenuity, MyPath. MyPath is an offshoot of Edgenuity that we spend about $40,000 a year at. It's at the high school level for students that are a little bit behind, and this kind of gives them an individual path on Edgenuity. We're not seeing a lot of use at the high school level with this program. Again, for us to spend $40,000 on it, we're just looking at whether that's a good investment for us to be making in a way that we could possibly get some savings to put in other places. What we've been talking about is looking at community networks, and I apologize for that blue. It did not look like that on my computer, but we're looking at community networks. And community networks, you look at the bottom, are broken up, and they're considering feeder patterns, geography, and also student numbers. But within those community networks, we would have what this blue box says is an executive director, someone at the central office that is a community-facing person that gets up every day thinking about that network and what's right for students within that network, and working with the leadership and the community to make sure that services we're providing are appropriate and what's needed. One big change, and the biggest change, is this idea of having lead principals. We feel like we have a lot of quality, very accomplished principals throughout the district, and we see this as an opportunity to expand their scope of influence and to impact not only students in their building, but also students in other buildings. So in most networks, we're looking at having a high school lead principal, a middle school lead principal, and then 2 elementary lead principals. We want these lead principals to have no more than 5 schools, ideally somewhere around 3 or 4. But we feel like this is a good investment of our money to compensate these individuals that, again, we could expand their scope of influence. So when you talk about community networks, what do we see as some benefits? And again, I want to point out the executive director position as being a point of contact for the community and someone that wakes up again every day ensuring that there's alignment within the network to the strategic goals that are set by the board. Lead principals, again, expanding the influence of our best principals to address needs within community networks. I want to point out that this person is staying in their principal position, but they will be compensated for an expanded role. We also see this as an opportunity to develop leadership. Assistant principals that are working under lead principals not only can have the opportunity to work alongside some of our best principals, but again, at times they would be in charge of their building because the lead principals, we are looking at them probably being out of the building somewhere around 3 days a month. Also, we see that within the networks that there's a unique opportunity to excel. We've talked about teacher leadership opportunities a lot in the last 18 months, but really promote teacher leadership opportunities and expand those to an even greater extent. Talking about some job descriptions, and again, I'm not going to go through each of these bullets, but I wanted you to be aware of kind of what we're thinking in terms of job descriptions for the executive directors. And again, this is a forward, a community-facing position, someone that's going to collaborate with people at central office to ensure alignment, but also, again, waking up every day thinking about community network. Finally, lead principals, which again is probably the biggest change. And when I said that we're looking at these people being out about 3 days a week, we're looking to take some time also that traditionally we pulled them out of their building that we won't be doing. Right now we have district network meetings that all principals are pulled out of the building, and really we see these community networks as a way to rethink how we're doing district PD for our leaders and for our teachers. So at times we have principals that are already out of their building up to 2 days a month, and so really going to 3 is not that big of a stretch, and we feel like it's a much better use of their time and a much better way to influence student achievement in these community networks. Again, I'm not going to go through each of these bullets, but there are some key ones in there. Assist the facilitation of the community networks alongside the executive director. I want to point out, again, the second to last bullet, mentoring new principals within the community network. We talked about a gap in leadership development. Again, you will see on your board agenda this evening that we're asking for more resources for balanced leadership so we can train APs. But we see these lead principals as someone that can really help us develop leaders within these networks. Finally, just as an FYI, put the networks, how we're looking at these, want to make sure that credit's given to Ben Coulter. Ben Coulter did an amazing job of pulling these networks together, again, looking at not only feeder patterns, but also student numbers and geography. So here, what we would consider Community Network 1, we'll come up with a better name than Community Network for tonight. Community Network 1, Community Network 2, I should have pointed out, 1 is basically the feeder patterns of Hickson High School, Self Creek, and Soddy Daisy. And then Community Network 2 is looking at feeder patterns for Lookout Valley, Red Bank High School, and Signal Mountain High School. And then for Community Network 3, looking at feeder patterns of East Hamilton, East Ridge, and Tyner. And then Community Network 4 is looking at the feeder patterns of Central and Uwalla High Schools. This time, if you have any questions, I'd entertain those.
Ms. Robinson?
So I really like this in theory, and I think I just need to see it play out to better understand, to understand logistically how this works, because I think about how stretched thin one can be just like running their own organization. So and then whenever you take on another role, even though you're getting compensated more, that doesn't create more hours in the day. So again, I really like it in theory. I think that for me personally, I have to see it play out. But I guess overall though, how does this increase opportunity, I guess, for the assistant principals? Is the idea that now, like, this person that becomes the executive director, they're actually leaning more on their assistant principal for more leadership in that school so that they can become a mentor throughout the network? Just like, that's a good thing if that's the case.
Sure.
I'm just curious if you can talk
So
more
one of
about
the things that we've talked about internally is a possible gap is just what you said, is you can't add hours to the day. So even if you're compensating the lead principals, there are going to be times where they're stretched. So the need to put an up-and-coming assistant principal behind them, and that would be an opportunity for that person to really lead a building and to be someone that's side by side with what we would consider one of our top principals. So we see that as a really unique learning experience. I point back to my personal experience, and if I hadn't worked under a couple of great principals, I don't think I would have been ready to step into the role of the principalship. So we see that as part of our leadership development. And again, we're rethinking how we're developing leaders, and we think that this can add a component to it that we haven't had in the past.
Ms. Thurman?
Okay, we talked about compensation. What compensation? I mean, we're working on the budget at this point, and what kind of compensation are we talking about?
We haven't nailed down an exact figure, but what we've talked about internally is somewhere between $5,000 and $7,500 for the lead principals.
Okay, and then they're taking them out of school, their school 3 days a month. Some of them are already complaining about being out of school 2 days a month for these mandatory principal meetings. They're gonna take 3 days a month. And like I told you when, one of my concerns, when we met, that's one of my concerns. Plus, I see in a few, in a while, we're gonna say, well, they need another assistant principal because they can't get everything done. I mean, I've seen this play out. You know, we've gone from no assistant principals in some schools to 1 to 2 to 3, and in some schools. And so I'm just afraid that this is going to be like a domino effect. I'm also worried about maybe, I don't know if dissension is a good word, with some principals having, somebody who was their peer yesterday is now going to be coming in and telling them exactly what they think they need to do. And I'm just afraid that's going to cause maybe some problems. And
Yes, ma'am. Let me again point out that we are taking principals out of the building right now, and some of that we would be rethinking. So there are some places that we're taking them out of their building now that if we go to these networks, we will no longer take them out of their building.
Yeah,
so
but you're going from 2 to 3 days.
It's going to be about a 1 day difference for just 4 principals, but the majority of our principals would be in their buildings longer when we go to these
But they're
networks.
going to somebody's school, so they're going to be kind of pulling them out of what they usually would be doing. If you're going to a school, you're going to have somebody to be talking with, so you're kind of taking them away from their everyday routine as well. Like I said, this is going to require a lot more thought, I think.
Sure. And if you don't mind, the assistant principals, I don't think we're going to be coming asking for assistant principals, but I think hopefully in a year or two, we are going to be the fastest improving. We'll be coming asking for more instructional support.
I've heard this story before.
I think Mr. Wingate, I believe, and Ms. Jones.
Mr. Testament was ready for me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Testament then.
Yeah, I really do like the concept because I feel we are so large that we're disjointed. We're not driving together. We're not in a good connection with one another. I see the potential here as being an area to do exactly what I hope it will do, solve some of these problems of how to meet as a group of teachers. I can see the potential of like-minded in-service professional development taking place. And, you know, you can solve a lot of things by not leaving school on the school day. There are other times that you can do those things. I hope this will be a place where you will solve a lot of your problems. I see the potential of communities. I think this gives an opportunity for school PTA groups, like-minded booster groups or business partnerships to actually get in and help some of our schools. And if we can identify these communities in such a way that they become a functioning learning community, business community, those things, I think it has great potential. And that's what I hope to see happen, and I'd like to hold our feet to the fire to make that take place.
Thank you, Mr. Testament. Mr. Wingate and then Ms. Jones.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, leadership and leadership training, in my opinion, has been one of our biggest issues, and I know you guys have heard me say that before. So if we're rethinking leadership training, I definitely want us to explore that some more and hear more about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
I have a couple questions. One, I didn't see Washington when they filed because they're an alternative.
Because Washington is an alternative school that serves every school, and you saw the same thing with a couple other of our kind of specialty schools.
into that, it sounds like this is similar to what Metro Nashville does with their clusters. Do we have any, testimonials or some more information that you provide to tell? So I know it's successful there, but I just like to hear how that worked in the beginning stages.
We've looked at a couple of, I don't necessarily have testimonials, we've looked at a couple of different groups or large school districts that have done it. Charlotte Mecklenburg's done the exact same thing. Metro Nashville's done it in some form. So yes, we have looked at examples of kind of how they've done it, the steps they've taken. Really the next step for us is going to be looking at the instruction side and how we align those assets to work across all 4 networks.
I was just curious, because I know, like, when Rhonda mentioned about how the decision of who would be the lead, what did that look like for them, just beginning that process?
Yes, ma'am.
That is something that we never done before, the dynamics of our area here. So I was just curious as to what that would look like, or what people said about it.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mr. Chester and I am vertically challenged sometimes on lights. I'm sorry I didn't see yours earlier. Mr. Joe Smith?
Dr. Robertson, it probably doesn't matter, but just for my clarification here on this community network number 1.
Sure.
I learned today that 2 of my schools, DuPont Elementary, Hickson Elementary, some of their students even feed into Red Bank Middle. So what, and I bet there's other elementary schools probably across the district that have that same scenario.
There are, and to be honest with you, I mean, one of the things that I think long term you would love to see these networks build a K through 12 feeder pattern where most of the time kid is staying in the network, K through 12. Right now our feeder patterns aren't as crystal clear as maybe we would like them to be. We talked about some options of school choice that maybe we'll be bringing to the board in the next month or so that hopefully could address some of those issues. And I know you've had an update on future ready institutes, which would look at also some school choice options for kids. So yeah, the feeder patterns are not, they're not as straight as this makes them seem.
Thank you. You have a question? Okay. Vice Chair Mosley Jones, take on delegations.
We have 2 delegations tonight, Dan Liner, HCDE, and, excuse me, Mr. Ezra Harris and Michael Gilliland, if I said that right, for Stand Up for the School Bus Safety. I'm going to read the delegation statement. I'll read it once. It applies to both delegations. You have 5 minutes each to present, and I'll notify you when you have 1 minute left. Thank you for your interest in addressing the Hamilton County Board of Education. During your presentation, please address the board as a whole, not individual board members or administrators. Also, do not present complaints or concerns you have about an individual employee of the school system. If you wish to voice those complaints and concerns, you should contact the central office and ask for a meeting with the superintendent. If I believe you are criticizing an individual employee, I will interrupt you and ask you to refrain. If you continue to criticize individual employees, or if, in my opinion, your remarks, your remarks are in error or becoming repetitive, I may interrupt you and ask you to sit down. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. I will tell you when you have 1 minute left. You may begin when you're ready. Mr. Lyon.
Chairman Highlander, school board members, Dr. Johnson. I always thoroughly enjoy coming to the February meeting because we have Christy presenting her budget numbers. And budget numbers mean that we're always, they're already considering budget numbers that impact teachers. Absent from the conversation this evening was any kind of discussion concerning an allocation for increases in teacher salary. We're revisiting some issues from last year. One of the matters that is worth repeating is the fact in your June meeting, you actually agreed to approve a 4% increase in salary for teachers. If you can repeat that this June, I promise I will also bring each of you a gift at the June meeting in January. We do know that the governor has proposed a budget of $55 million for the entire state that will be allocated for teacher salaries. That number is a reduction of $45 million from last year. So obviously it's going to be very difficult to repeat that 4% increase, but I'm asking for the board to at least begin considering a number that would be appropriate for this year. We know from documentation that Hamilton County is the 4th largest metropolitan district in the state. We also know from data that Hamilton County is the number 4 district in terms of teacher compensation. Because at this point, Knox County, Metro Nashville, and Shelby County provide a greater amount of compensation for teachers than does Hamilton County. And I would venture to say, though I have no data to support this, but I would venture to say that our talented teaching force is equal to or it surpasses the teaching force in Knox County, Metro Nashville, and Shelby County. It's the responsibility of this board to allocate every dollar appropriate, every dollar available, I should say, to recognize the work that our teachers do in our buildings every day. So I thank you for your consideration. Also, I want to extend an apology to the board as well. About 3 weeks ago, Mr. Hensley issued a communication to every employee of Hamilton County declaring it was School Board Appreciation Week. So I read that email, I thought, well, this is a golden opportunity and I have to take advantage of it. But lo and behold, Friday afternoon came and it was 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I had not taken advantage of it. So I'm availing myself of this opportunity to express my appreciation for the work that you do on behalf of teachers and students in Hamilton County. I know each of you professionally and personally, and I thoroughly understand your dedication to the work that you do, and the lack of appreciation, I'm speaking to the media, the lack of appreciation that you so frequently experience from the media. So on behalf of teachers and students in Hamilton County, I want to express my appreciation to this board and your undying effort to provide the best possible opportunities for our students and our teachers. So thank you.
Okay. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Dan, for staying under your 5 minutes.
Thank you for the statement of appreciation to the board. We
Yes,
all are.
thank you, Dan.
teachers and children.
Good evening. I'm Ezra Harris, and I'm president of the Woodmore Neighborhood Association, and also a member of the Stand Up for the School Bus Safety Coalition. And of course, the coalition members, if you are present here, some of you come and stand with me. To the board member, to Dr. Highlander, and to Superintendent Johnson, we appreciate this opportunity you've given us this evening to come before you. One of the things that we want to emphasize to you concerning the school bus safety is that Durham is putting our children and drivers in danger due to its cavalier approach to safety and maintenance, and the school board needs to take more action on this. We recognize that the school board had made changes after a tragic accident, but our review shows that there is much more that needs to be done. We do have a moral responsibility to let our parents and teachers and our school board know about the dangers of the school bus company that is transporting our children daily here in Hamilton County. When Durham drivers report safety issues with the buses of Durham, their concerns are often ignored and dismissed. And of course, we seek that there needs to be transparency and accountability of these concerns. We have documented dozens of safety-related incidents, which are in your packets that you have with you. These incidents range from bus that gets so hot that the driver's sneakers melt, to the bus exhaust flowing into the bus cabin, to buses so overcrowded, children are standing in aisles. In one incident, management instructed that the bus be driven despite radiator fluid, visibility pouring out under the bus, While en route, the bus overheated and broke down in the middle of the road. Students are evacuated and had to wait on the dangerous side of the roadways in Hamilton County for another bus to arrive to pick them up. We do believe that we have documented only a tip of this, and this is only the tip of the iceberg, but we're not doing a blame game or anything for Durham or anything. We just want transparency and accountability. We want to be able to help them with some more safety tips and concerns that we can all work together and have transparency and have accountability here in the county with Durham. We appreciate you giving us a listening ear on this matter. And of course, as I said before, it's not a blame game. We didn't come to blame anyone, but we think we can do a better job. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We all are concerned for safety, and we appreciate you. We need now a motion to approve the minutes of January 18th regular session.
So moved.
So moved. We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Vote, please.
No, hold it. Okay.
That's the minutes. We have a
I'm
change
sorry,
to the
I'm
minutes.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me? There's something wrong with the minutes?
No, I was reading his concerns here and I was quite
Okay.
taken by that.
Vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highland?
Yes. Now we need a motion and a second before we have any discussion on the approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay. Do a second?
Second.
Okay, now what items need to be pulled? If any?
Okay.
Ms. Thurman?
Yes, I'd like to pull 9B1A1, CSA field trip to Japan,
Gotcha.
and pull D2, the textbook adoption committee.
Okay. Get those noted. Ms. Robinson?
I'd like to pull 8C1,
Okay, 8C1.
C1, 1A, the Tyner High School roof. I have a question.
8, I don't see 8.
1A? Are you in this one? Under bids and contracts, 8C1.
No, that would be nine. Nine.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Nine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Time's up, Tiffany.
You have that, Ms. Ford?
I got it.
Okay, anything else? Anyone else need to pull anything?
Here.
Okay, so we will vote. Go ahead and take our vote with those items pulled to be discussed.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highland?
Yes. Okay, Ms. Thurman first.
Okay, the field trip request for Tono, I guess is the way you pronounce this, Japan. I will not be voting for this. I do not like the fact that this board is going to be responsible for a group of kids going all the way to Japan. I think they want to go to Japan, they get a travel agent and go themselves. I do not know why they need for our approval for this. I am not comfortable with sending our students all the way to Japan, and this board, there's a lot of things that can happen along the way, and I just do not want to be responsible.
May I ask you, is this in conjunction with our with the Chattanooga, Mayor Burke's sister city, Mayor
We've done
Burke?
this for years.
Yeah.
They did it when I was in elementary school. I'm glad to see.
Okay, so any other comments on this, anyone? Do you need any clarification from anyone?
Well, I know we have done it in the past, but, you know, to me, we live in a different world than we have in the past. And I know even our private schools and towns have discontinued school-sponsored trips. And maybe not all of them, but some of them have. And especially the ones out of the country. And you know, I think if this is something that the Mayor of Chattanooga wants to do, and maybe some other groups want to get behind it, maybe they should be the ones sponsored. I really have problems with this being a school-sponsored trip myself.
Could I ask Mr. Bowles?
Yes.
Would you mind maybe addressing some of the issues, sir?
Be glad to. CSAS offers a couple of different exchange programs. This particular one with Japan has been going on since 1993. Granted, we have not traveled to Japan in some time. However, we have been involved with an exchange in Madrid. You all have already approved the trip to Madrid this school year for this coming summer. So the Japan trip is very important to us. We became sister cities between our two cities this past fall because of the relationship that we've had with Tono, Japan since '93. The mayor himself went over this past year. Now, granted, our school systems are separate from the sister city program, but that is the whole reason that our two cities have become so connected recently. It's a small group. They live with the families during the time they're there. It's a cultural experience. When our students go to Madrid, actually, they'll be in school with them. So, is there any other questions I can answer?
Is it Mayor Burke you're speaking of?
No.
Mayor Coppinger?
No, Mayor Burke did travel to Tono back in the fall.
Okay, I was gonna say.
But our relationship with Tono has been much longer than that.
Sure.
While we did not travel to Tono for several years, they have been continuing to come to us, both us and CSLA, as a matter of fact.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
clarification. Any other questions for our principal? Thank you. Do we need to?
Motion. If they want to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to put it back in.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, we'll have a vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testament?
Well, I do agree that these trips are important, but I just have the trouble approving as a school board, and I vote no.
Mrs. Thurman?
No, I voted against one in Madrid as well.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Holland?
I think it's a wonderful educational opportunity. I have been traveling abroad and I'm concerned about some of the safety issues abroad, so I will vote no. So we have a result. So it did pass.
Yes,
Okay, the next item, please, textbook adoption. Ms. Thurman?
Yes, we received an invitation, and it has nothing to do with the textbook adoption committee, but while we were on textbooks, we did receive an invitation to a Big River Grill and Brewing Works it was a conversation while exploring the new HMH K-8 Custom Science Program. I imagine that is for an adoption for us to look at, is that correct?
We have a science adoption that's this current school year. I've not been invited to Big River Grill though.
Well, came across the HCDE, did it not come across the HCDE? It came through, I got it.
I didn't get that either.
I got it.
I haven't seen it, but we've been meeting at at central office and obviously, I mean, part of.
Can you clarify this for us, ma'am?
Well, it says here, hold on just a minute, it says Tuesday, February the 20th, 4 to 6 p.m.
Yes, according to the policy, we allow any vendors to host events in Chattanooga, and we can invite our teachers, but we don't sponsor or validate any of their programs. So we're just notifying the teachers that they can come and attend if they'd like.
Well, I just don't think this is kosher.
So every
I think
vendor
we're
is allowed
gonna
to do
get
that.
all the texts. Can I ask you, am I wrong about this? Is this, I don't think this matches the smell test really, to do it like this. Because since there's drinks being served there and different things, I'm just not real sure.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this practice, but I am familiar with your board policy about code of ethics, and it actually prohibits acceptance of gifts or other things that they value.
So if they're serving dinner, we don't want their serving dinner. Nobody else is invited but me.
If the vendor has already been selected and then they want to go after if they've been or not selected and take teachers out, that's fine. But the policy says an employee or official or an official's or employee's spouse, blah, 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 may not accept directly or indirectly any gift, money, gratuity, or other consideration in favor of any kind from anyone other than the school district that a reasonable person would understand was intended to influence the vote, official action, or judgment of the official. And that's your ethics policy, but actually it's the state code.
Well, I just don't want to run afoul of anything here, so I just want to bring that to everyone's attention. I'm just not sure that.
Well, I think the appropriate thing is to admonish the administration that those kinds of dinners, prospective vendors, can't be done.
Is this, ma'am, is this already, have we already chosen that vendor?
We have not.
Okay.
It's an information session about that textbook.
So I think the easy thing to do here is just to tell the vendor we can't do it, and we can do that.
I just don't want to run afoul of anything here.
Perhaps finger foods, for a snack to keep them,
That's
body and soul together.
If they're paid for by the school district.
Yeah, you can, if I may speak, in the past,
I'll bring sausage and eggs.
schools have sponsored teachers have come to schools and, we've had sandwiches and things like that, but they're paid by the school.
This is the third vendor event, so 2 others have already been invited to.
So we've already violated it twice, is that what you're telling us? Wow.
So over the years, every textbook adoption, we've allowed vendors to come into Hamilton County. It's not a Hamilton County sponsored event. Bradley County and Hamilton County teachers were both invited to the event. So.
You might need to rethink that. There's already check with
Mr.
legal.
Attorney, is that do you think that's a violation of our policy if it's an outside source, not sponsored by the county?
I would need to know more because this is the first I've heard of this, so I hate to take a step into the dark. All I can do is read the policy and tell you that if it's intended as swag to influence a vote, then it's problematic. If it's a get together to say this is what we're doing, this is what's new about this, about maybe this software that goes along with the textbook, that's helpful, that's informative. And if you've got a couple of cans of Coca-Cola and some moon pies there in the corner, no one's gonna think that's really going to influence a vote. Dinner at the Big River is different.
So are we gonna study that, Dr. Johnson, you think?
Yeah, allow us to study and get some clarity with the vendor, and we'll work through it. I know that vendors just in former roles, they regularly come around and share information on what they do. So let us do some searching with them and do some follow-up and see exactly what the program entails, and then we can follow back up.
Yeah, ma'am, thank you for your work in trying to get that together. Okay, Ms. Robinson?
I had pulled,
Oh,
no, we have to vote.
I'm
sorry,
yeah, we need to,
I'm sorry, we didn't.
To approve the textbook adoption committee additions.
I second.
Could you repeat that, please, to make sure it's clear for everyone?
Just to move to approve what I just pulled off, the textbook adoption committee additions. Approved.
As approved?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highlander?
Yes, thank you. Now, Ms. Robinson?
Okay, I just had a question. The Tyner High auditorium re-roof, I was just curious, doing this work now, how does that play into the work that's gonna happen?
It shouldn't.
Totally separate?
Yeah.
Okay, just, I was just making sure we're not double standing.
I'm just messing
Okay,
with
thank you. Thank you, Kutza.
They gotta have a roof for 3 years.
I'm aware.
So that was merely clarification.
Just wanted clarification,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you so much.
I move to put this back on. the agenda.
Second.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote on after putting it back, correct? Okay, vote please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Howard?
Yes, thank you very much. Next, please, I think we're,
Down to administrative business matters.
okay, administrative business matters, operations, Dr. Lennon Craig. Do you want to turn that over to Mr. Webb? Your discretion, sir.
While they're trying to decide who's gonna do that, I was thinking this new position request was under administrative matters, and I forgot to pull it, but I'm a little bit upset about that too. It's too late to do anything about it now.
Flow chart.
Yeah, because I haven't got my flow chart yet.
got your email.
It's in the email. It's like shit on there. Does it have all the salaries and everything?
Yes, sir.
What's that
Parker.
now?
Yep, we're looking at the Bakewell water line easement.
Okay. Yeah, it, let me get to it on mine here. Basically, we have an existing easement with a main well that's on the North Hamilton elementary property. And with the intention, I think there was a future intention with it placing there for future development. Bakewell Utilities in a position now with the increasing numbers of housing development, with a bigger water demand for water in that area. So they've asked to provide a water easement, not only to provide water for the community, but for future developments on our property. It's also going to have a water line that we can tie into in the future.
Comments on that, please?
So I can move to approve, please.
Move to approve, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, vote please.
Who's second?
Tiffany and
Tiffany.
Ms. Robinson and Mr. Wingate hit it right together, so choose one.
Robinson.
That's right.
And who did it? Okay. Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Yes. Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Hollander?
Yes. Next, we have Human Resources and Finance, Mr. Keith Fogelman and Mr. Don Hall presenting the FY18 retirement incentive. Let me say to the audience, if you were not here, we did have a fairly extensive discussion in the work session, for the audience that's not aware of it.
Do we not just need to approve this? I mean, or that's just.
Do we need it? Do we need any? Are you just requesting approval?
All we're doing is requesting approval for what was submitted to the board earlier.
Does anyone have any further discussion? Okay, let's call for the motion then.
hold it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just moved to approve it.
Move to approve. Do you have a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I just think it's important that going forward, we try as a school board to be more transparent when it comes to these types of large expenditures. I had real trouble getting something yesterday and then voting on it today. It really bothers me to do that. And I think we have to strive for a little more perfection when it comes to this. And I realize that there are many things that develop with this. One thing that really bothered me, I was concerned that, our teachers and other administrators were not consulted and questioned about it. I understand they have at this point. And I know it's very difficult to keep a secret in this county, I know that. But I think we as a school board have to work on that ourselves. You know, when we're giving confidential information, whomever did it, I'm not saying we did it as a board, but somebody did. You know, these type things can run something that's going to be good for a lot of people. And but I think we've got to strive for a little more transparency at the right times. And I am glad that our superintendent did reach out to our media and got to that point and tried to clarify the issue a lot better than it was. It's one thing for it to play out as just a rumor. But I think we can't ignore whom we serve. And this thing has to do with teachers more than anybody. And I think, you know, we should include them at the very onset of this. That really does bother me so. I hope it works out for us. I think it's, we do have that possibility of losing some highly qualified teachers. But we also have the possibility of getting some new energy and ideas within our teaching staff. So that's pretty much what I have to say about it.
Thank you. Ms. Lennon?
Sure. I wanted to make a comment about something that David said because of the fact that this is a public meeting. I've known about this since February 1, so I did not learn about this yesterday, and I've known about it for now 2 weeks. And, you know, we were asked to meet with Dr. Johnson and his staff almost 3 weeks ago to set a date. So I guess I just wanted to clarify that not all of us only learned about this yesterday, and I think it's really important the public hear that. So I just want to state that because I think it's important that they, well, I don't know about that. I cannot speak to how it got out, and I don't know that if that's, I do not know if that's actually a real issue. So I'm not sure. I have not heard any feedback on it. So I just wanted to state that there are a number of us that have known about this for over a week and have had time to think about it and look into it. And so just want to point that out.
Ms. Lennon and then Ms. Thurman.
I think it's hard to, there's a lot of us, and Dr. Johnson and the staff has to meet with us individually because it is something that we're going to vote on. So I appreciate the fact that poor Tracy scheduling all of us is a little bit crazy sometimes. But I appreciate the fact that they are willing to work with us and meet with us individually to go over the details of everything and let us have time to think about it. And I know it's hard, and it has been we were scheduled meetings. You had yours February, of course, I did have mine just yesterday. But I do think change is hard, but I think it's also, we're not forcing anybody to do anything. I think this is a great opportunity and it allows choice. For some people, I think there's a normal process for people retiring, and this is, to me, a good progressive thing that Hamilton County is doing to, move forward in the right direction. So, yes, it might not have been, but we have to do it now. We can't wait any longer. So to give people the opportunity that are going to retire, the chance to think about it, talk to their spouses, talk to their financial advisor. So I think it's good timing.
Thank you. Ms. Thurman and then Ms. Mosley Jones and then Coach Joe.
Okay, because I'm just say what I had said it earlier. They said about 150 may take in the Senate, it could be more. We're already having trouble finding teachers, and some of the teachers are going to be losing. I think the classrooms are really going to suffer for it. It creates a domino effect in our schools. Because I was here the last time this happened, I remember some of the things that happened. And we were going to save all this money, and we were going to have so much money, and as you saw, just a few years later, we were back in the same situation. So, also we get 1.9 million from the state that could go into our, like I said, our wish list, but instead we're going to have to be spending it out on these incentives. And plus, on this wish list, there were things of that we were going to use some of this money for. thought there were a whole lot more people gonna be hired like for the arts and different things like that. Well, that tells me that if we're gonna be cost neutral, that some teachers that are teaching other things, we're gonna be putting into those kind of teachers. And I just wanna be sure that the schools up in my district, where the student-teacher ratio is not 8-to-1 or 10-to-1. We heard the other night that some of our classes were 30-to-1. And I just want to be sure that the schools in my district will not be affected by this, that the classes are going to continue to be huge, because some other classes do not have very small student-teacher ratios. And I know there's some talk of cutting out some classroom teachers, because I think we have, 400 or 500 more than the DEP says we're supposed to have. But I just want to be sure the people up in my district do not get a lot more put on them, just trying to make the numbers work, because we're not going to be able to find enough teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Herman. I'll let Dr. Johnson address that in just a second. I'd like to have the audience too. I want to commend Dr. Johnson for the way he has worked to stay within the Sunshine Law. He has tried to meet with the staff, with each of us individually, which he can do legally and ethically. And it's really hard to schedule 9 people if you know our schedules. And I agree with this Mosley Jones, what she said about Ms. Tracy having to deal with it. What they tried to do is let the board members know individually of a plan before it went public. And it was hard to get to some of them, but Dr. Johnson has been trying to work within the realm of our very strict sunshine law in this state, and I appreciate that. And Dr. Johnson, I think, may want to address some of Ms. Thurman's comments.
Just a couple things in Ms. Thurman's comments. One, as superintendent, a big part of my job is to inform you as a board, to keep you informed, and that's what superintendents do across the country. So I think it's important that we understand that. One thing I want to share that we're working through, and we always front face a lot of the things that are happening, and just talked about reorganization. We talk about the community needs and trying to address it through this strategy. But there's some internal things that we're working through right now that have created some challenge. And so when we look at staffing, there's not a base staffing model for any school in the system. And so it puts us in a quandary from the standpoint of how do we staff, what, where, and what decisions are made based on the school and the need. And so when we start to look at some of that, of course you've got the BP, but then you've got separate programs. And so how do you staff a title school? Standardized, our system has to have that. How do you fund a middle school? How do you fund an elementary school? How do you fund a high school? How do we fund, how do we staff? How do we staff our magnet programs? And so over the course of the next several months, we'll be engaging principals, we'll be engaging teachers, we'll be engaging our leaders across the system, and really making sure we have some baseline staffing models in place for us as a system, so we can make informed decisions just going forward. That's just how a school system should operate, and that's how we desire to operate. And so, again, I think one of the things, I know the narrative can go several different ways with a strategy like this. First of all, this is not about, trying to get rid of the old teachers. This is not what this is about. This is a finite moment in time where we have an opportunity to implement a strategy because of some additional revenue that can create recurring revenue of $6.5 million that will allow us to address things like safety, increased technology, STEM programming, counselors, social workers, ESOL teachers, all of these areas that you all as a board collectively and that our community comprehensively have shared are critically important. And so I understand that, we look at our individual districts, but we're looking at this comprehensively as a system. And we're trying to make a decision based on what's best for Hamilton County schools. The other side of this is, very rare do you have an opportunity to extend an incentive to employees. And so I feel like we're very fortunate because of Christy's years of hard work and pinching every penny, to be able to be in a position in combination with growth funds to be able to do some things like this. And so, that's kind of how this thing has evolved. And so, again, we feel like it's a unique opportunity to address the community needs. And we feel like it's a unique opportunity to give our employees a choice and to extend to them an opportunity.
Just
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
I just wanna clarify one thing, you said old teachers, you might need to say more senior teachers.
Well, I'm just referencing the
I know some of the
headlines.
people that are like this that are not old, because some of them are not as old as I am, so.
Yes, ma'am. I'm referencing the headline. I want to be real clear about what this is and what this is not. What this is and what this is not. This is not about, you know, this is not about getting rid of people. This is a strategy that's employed in many organizations across the nation, outside of even school districts. School districts employ it, but it's implemented in many organizations. When we talk about becoming a high reliability organization, this is a strategy that allows us to better align our budget to the board, you all collectively, the things you all articulated at the retreat, and the community priorities. And so our job was to bring you a strategy, and Christy and Don did a great job bringing forth a strategy that allows us to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Mr. Joe Smith, please.
Again, I'm going to support this, and I have some concern, like one of my colleagues mentioned a while ago, that, we may lose some very gifted, talented people, but if we don't lose them now, we're going to lose them a year or 2 or 3 from now anyway, when they choose to retire. And, what I've learned, that the YMCA lost me last June, and they hadn't missed a lick. They
hadn't recovered yet.
Yeah, so again, I just think it's so important
They were thinking we're gone.
thank you, Ron, to give our employees a choice. That tickles me.
And Mr. Highlander, if I may just say one more thing, I mean, I
Yes,
said last time.
Go ahead, David.
I think this is the first time we've ever offered this where we've had it different percentages. Is that correct?
There have been some tiers in the past.
But the phone calls that I've had were just recently, the last 3 or 4 days, were from teachers that said, my husband's retired, I would really like to take advantage of this, but I don't have enough years. And I told them I couldn't speak to it because I didn't have the information, but I think that's to me, that's being responsible and trying to reach out to some folks, and I'm glad to see that in.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
And just one quick thing I'll add, if this is approved, what'll happen from here is we'll establish some frequently asked questions for employees, but also keeping this team, we'll work to have some meetings with employees to make sure they understand. But again, just about giving them time to make a decision.
Thank you. Nothing else, we'll call for the motion.
Move to approve.
Ms. Jones?
I second.
Ms. Robinson, second.
We already did it.
Okay, I ready to
Twice.
Okay, call for the vote then, please.
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon,
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Testerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
No.
Mr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairman Highland.
I'm going to recuse myself from this vote. I have a brother who has been 32 years a teacher in the system, and trying to stay in line with propriety, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote. So it carries. Board matters, partnership, MOA, Dr. Brian Johnson.
I think you have before you the MOA that the commissioner shared last week, or maybe in your agenda package. So if there are not any questions about it, we'll move forward.
Ms. Thurman, we got to have a motion first.
She got a question.
No.
We got,
Excuse me, got a question?
we need the motion first, though, don't we?
Motion to approve.
Move to approve, Ms. Jones, second? Mr. Testman?
Second, yes.
Okay. Now discussion. So any discussion on this? Let's call for vote.
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon,
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Testerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
No, we had the discussion yet. We had a discussion the other night, yes.
Mr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairman Highland.
Yes. Next is discussion of possible vote of resolution regarding ADF grading system. And I told the board that I would present this. It is in your board packet. Would it be appropriate, Mr. Attorney, for me to read this to the audience?
Sure.
Okay. And Dr. Johnson has suggested we may want, at the board's approval, if you'll look at it and follow along, he thinks that perhaps we should consider dropping the last paragraph, and I'm willing to do that if at your discretion, fellow board members. And I will tell you where this came from. I did research not from any local group, but the Kaplan Magazine, Chalkboard, Education Today. I went to 7 different periodicals and done our research before I came up with this. I did not do this solo and alone. The Hamilton County Board urges the state to overturn the ADF grading, skill grading system. Hamilton County joins the growing resistance to this model being proposed by the Tennessee Department of Education. Whereas the Hamilton County Board of Education is responsible for providing a local system of public education, and whereas the state of Tennessee, by March 2016 legislative approval and signature of Governor Bill Haslam of House Bill 155 and Senate Bill 300, has directed the Tennessee Department of Education to develop a grading system for assigning letter grades A to F on the state report cards for the Tennessee schools. Whereas after operating under federally mandated No Child Left Behind guidelines, Tennessee received a waiver of NCLB standards and adopted rates to the top guidelines, which were subsequently replaced by the new federally mandated Every Student Succeeds Act in an effort to close the achievement gaps for economically disadvantaged students. And whereas a rating system utilizing A to F grades for schools and districts creates a false impression about students, ignores the unique strengths of each school, and unfairly reduces each student's worth to the school's assigned grade. And whereas at least 16 states have implemented a similar rating system utilizing A through F grades for schools and districts, and to date there's no definitive research that suggests these ratings have improved students or school performances. Whereas we embrace meaningful accountability that informs students, parents, and teachers about the learning needs of each student in each school, and now therefore be it resolved by the Hamilton County Board of Education as follows. The Hamilton County Board of Education hereby urges the Tennessee General Assembly to repeal legislation reducing schools to a single letter grade designation, and instead, in the best interest of students and schools, allow schools to publish multiple measures alongside any summative designation as outlined by Every Student Succeeds Act final regulations, which were not available at the time this legislation was passed. ESSA final regulations, page 101. And at Dr. Johnson's request, the last statement, and I am willing with board approval to forego this last paragraph, be it further resolved, this new system should reduce the high-stakes standardized tests, encompass multiple test assessments, reflect greater validity, more accurately reflect what students know and can do in terms of the rigorous standards. The last statement, sir, is one you felt would be positive to.
Well, I think the two different things that we're mixing, and so A through F is legislative, and so it's just two different things, just for clarity of the resolution.
So, with no one's objection, since I'm the author, may I go ahead and strike that last paragraph, Mr. Bennett?
Absolutely.
So, unless anyone seriously objects, I will strike that last paragraph.
Dr. Holland?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the work you did on this. You sent this to us, we read this. I'm in favor of doing this, so I'm gonna make a motion to read it.
Okay. Thank you for the motion.
I second.
Give a second.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this. What's the state using are they gonna decide whether they're A through F, or are we gonna decide at our level? Who's gonna make the decision what schools are A, what schools are F? Or what are they gonna use to make that distinction?
Last week, I'll let Justin speak a little to that, this, or about time I began as well. But last board meeting, remember Justin talked about the ESSA plan and different elements and the Ready Graduate, and so it's a combination of things. Simple answer, just the Ready Graduate indicators, which is AP courses, dual enrollment certifications. It's also obviously achievement, how students.
So a lot has to do with what the central office has the schools doing, not necessarily the students. If we're offering the right courses in the right schools, they're using that, so that really doesn't have anything to do with the students in the schools. So, I mean, but I don't want the students to look like if maybe we don't offer the right courses in the right schools, and then they're gonna get a bad grade for that, when really maybe the teachers and the students don't really have any control over that, but yet they're gonna be just graded on that, and I don't think that's fair. And then we have some schools that have so many, English as a second language students, and their grades, there's no way their grades can probably be where they need to be, and they're gonna get, or I just guess I feel more for the teachers and and the principals in some of these schools, because some of these things are things that they have no control over, and it's gonna make their schools look really bad when they really don't have any control over some of these things.
If I can say just a little bit about I have done a lot of research, a lot. And looking about North Carolina and West Virginia are two of the closest states that I've looked at that are fairly close to our region, but it's all over the country being done. And the primary recipients of the F schools are those children that in schools that have a really high percentage of free and reduced lunch. And the ones that are predominantly the A schools across the nation have very low percentage. So quite often, they're graded on the basis, the presumption is they're graded somewhat on the basis of their economics. And most people that I read educationally, and this is from, I've been a member of the captain, was president of the unit when I was here at one time, so it's a very, very professional, and they think it's very negative for children in poverty, both rural and urban. So.
Well, we already know pretty much what schools are passing and failing them. I have to do is look it up on the computer and you see their grades and things, where they fall and all that kind of thing. I guess I just have a problem with this, because I'm not real sure how they're gonna, how that's gonna help anything, I guess.
That's the point, it won't help, that's why we want to have this resolution. Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, if I understand this correctly, what we're trying to do is trying to get our General Assembly to repeal a law that has already passed, if I understand this correctly.
That is correct.
2 years ago, state legislators voted on it. Our Hamilton County delegation voted on it. Haslam signed it. Commissioner Queen implemented it. And let me tell you, I've been working with tough kids all my life, and I have never had a student in my entire career talk to me about his school as a failing school. I've never had that happen. Maybe it happens. I've never had that happen.
It happens.
I think that I would use it as motivation. If a child is in a failing school, I would encourage him to help be part of the solution and do something about that. Again, I've never heard a child talk about I'm in a failing school, or the graduation rates at my school are poor. So I just can't support a resolution that tells our legislators and governors and our new partner now, Department of Ed, State Department of Ed, that they're wrong just because we might hurt somebody's feelings. So I can't support this.
Mr. Jones?
So. I grew up in the neighborhoods where these kids go to school. I still live in the neighborhood where these kids go to school. And I served here on this board where these children go to school. And for 4 years, and prior to the 4 years that I have now been on this board, but for the 3 years that I was back in Chattanooga working in the community with these kids, and you've never heard them say this, but I hear it all the time. I hear it from their parents, I hear it from the schools, I hear it from these cameras, I hear it from everybody. Everybody is pointing a finger at these kids and telling them they're failing, when they're really underperforming, not failing, they're underperforming at times, and it's not by choice. It's a stigmatization on a kid. And in 2018, just because your skin is not as light or pale as your peer, and you don't live in a neighborhood where you might have two parents and a gate around your house, or a garage, or able to go on vacation, does not make you dumb or failing. I don't care about the state's feelings. They don't care about the fact that they don't fully fund the DEP. And what about our kids? That's why they're underperforming, because they don't have everything they need, and we can't suffice for it. Yes, they are our partners, but in any partnership, just as in a marriage or a parent relationship or a sibling relationship, there are times when you agree, disagree, and you disagree. If you put this stigma, or we vote or don't show our opinion on how we feel about this A through F system, then we're continuing to say it's okay to say these schools are failing schools, and I may be priority schools or focus schools, but failing schools, because that's what they get out of it. A priority school is a priority school, and it's due to the fact that they may be having underperformance. But the media and everybody else in this area, and I know in Hamilton County, tells the kids that are in those schools that they're failures. And they know it. And that's why their mamas come up here and get hardships and move to put them in a school that's not failing, when the truth of the matter is, all 9 of us on this board right here know that there are other schools in Hamilton County that might not be, and we know it now because we got 12 of them instead of 5. So we have to be honest with ourselves, and instead of repealing and replacing, which is such an oxymoron, let's call truth to power and say that no, we're not going to sit here and let you continue to stigmatize our kids.
Thank you. No other discussion. Thank you. No other discussion. Let's call for the vote.
What is the motion?
Move to approve this resolution.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second to approve.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Testament?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
No.
Chairman Howland?
Yes. Architectural selection. Mr. Witt, Justin Witt.
Thank you, Dr. Hollander. We have there where the final recommendations were made, and I'll just run through them real quick. East Hamilton Middle School, CWH Architects, Michael Brady Company, Harrison Elementary, Franklin Architects, Howard High Stadium and Track, Barge Design Solutions, Snow Hill Elementary Edition, Newhoff Taylor Architects, and finally Tyler Middle High and CSLA, Berkeley Kinley and Wilkerson Architects.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Galloway. Second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Jones. Any discussion? Call for vote.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testament?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Howland?
Yes. Calendars. We have had extensive discussion. We may have a little bit more, but let's call for the motion and second, and then we can have any more discussion we need.
Now, I'm gonna make a motion here, but I'm gonna move, to talk about to move on what we decided or talked about in the work session. And that's to approve the 2018-19 calendar, that's the strap 3, option 3 that's been given us. That's the motion I'll make.
Second.
Okay, now, we have discussion on this. Ms. Thurman, you have,
Yes, I was just on the calendar, I'm gonna vote against it as of date. I don't think I've ever voted for a calendar. This is the only time I've ever liked Joe Connor in my life. He never voted for a calendar, and so far I've not either. And that is true, you know that's true. Because I'm a Fritz on this, I'm not a fan of the fall break. I think we're just getting into school and then take a whole week off. I would much rather start a week later in August. And that way when the kids are in summer programs and stuff, they can continue the summer program for another week. And instead of the parents scrambling around trying to figure out what to do with this week in October. So that's why I will be voting against it, but that's my reason.
Ms. Thurman, in theory, I agree with you. I've had several parents contact me who've already made reservations for this October. And if you look at the 2019 20 calendar, I believe our people have looked at making some adjustments basically in line with what you're saying for the following year. Am I right, Dr. Towns-Edwards?
I'm not sure if this is. Yes, so that is true that for 1920, we proposed to reduce fall break down to a 3-day break to start school actually 1 day earlier and to have Thanksgiving be the full week. But that is the calendar that we would like to go get more community feedback on to see if among those options for 1920.
But this year, I think the main reason we kept it, Ms. Thurman, and I'm like you, I would like to get rid of it, but I think the people that have already put money down on trips, that they would be very upset if they lost their money for this particular year. I see Ms. Linda. I've got a couple of comments, but I'll let Ms. Linda go first.
Thank you. I want to thank the committee, and I'm gonna echo what Tiffany said at the work session, some of you were not here. I think it's great that we had community engagement. Was it perfect this time? No, it's the first time we did it. I think that the thing that I think we have to work on is to make sure we have representation from every single district. And so I understand that, and I think that we can do a better job at that. This was the first time around, and I think we had a learning curve on that. I like the changes. I agree that a lot of times there are too many breaks for kids, for our students. But then when I also looked at the state and I understood what the state requires and the professional development days and what the learning days are before, then I have a clearer understanding myself of why the breaks are the way that they are. I appreciate the fact that some changes were made. I think it's a good choice to have that professional development at the end of fall break versus the beginning of fall break, because it allows, I just think it's more productive. I think another thing that I do like that the students are going to go back on January 7th, and 2 professional development days are January 3rd and 4th. So our students will get back to school sooner, which I think is very important, and that'll be more learning time in the classroom again. So that has changed, so I appreciate that. And again, I appreciate everybody's input, and I just hope that the next time we do this, that we can have representation from every single district, which I think that we will do, because we're gonna work on it.
Thank you. I did, I'm sure like all of you, I reached out to my district and tried to get some input. And while I agree with Ms. Thurman, I think we've got to keep the October this year. One thing that definitely concerns me is what's best academically for children. And the more consecutive days that children are in school, the better they respond. When you have so many breaks, now, Mr. Galloway and Mr. Testman probably are the only two that equal my years in schools, and mine's been 45. And I'm going to tell you, when you come back from a week break, it takes a day or 2 or 3 to get children back in the groove. And so it's very important. I personally would like to see this year, the 21st of November, be a school day. Several people said on the committee that they looked at that 2-day weeks they don't get as much out of. I'd like to see it be a 3-day week. And one reason is children in poverty need the food. They'll come to school to get the food and they'll get their education. And I would really like to see those children be able to eat for an extra day. I would also look at the stockpile days for inclement weather. I'd like to see the 15th of October be moved to the spring after the testing time. I think the children and the teachers need every single day possible for teaching and learning. And I'd like to see an administration day. I think the day's needed on the 15th. Take one of the pink admin days from August and move it down to the 15th of October. But I commend the group. I think it's so much better than what it was before. But to have a stockpile day for inclement weather, and you all have made a positive step in making 4 of those stockpile days instead of 5, and I appreciate that. But a stockpile day in October, it's once in a millennium you'll need to take an inclement weather day in October. So.
That's true.
But I do appreciate this calendar. Looks a lot
Very
better
much.
than the other one that we did. At least you put President's Day back on there.
Yes.
But, you know, I do appreciate all the work, and I know it's hard to do all this, but I concur with a lot of things Steve said. Thank you.
Would I be in order? Okay.
Well, I was going to say, Dr. Hamlet, I think in order to do what you said, we have a motion and a second to vote on what's on there, and if we want to vote that down, that's fine, but if we vote it up, then we wouldn't make those changes.
That's good. Good.
May I would call for the question here and get the vote and see if we want to amend it.
Would we, if I want to amend the motion, could I ask?
Yeah, should we move to amend in a second?
The maker of the motion is Mr. Galloway, is that correct?
Well, since it's been seconded, it belongs to the board, so anyone can move an
Good.
amendment.
May I ask for I'm more interested in the children coming on the 21st of November, but I would like to see the stockpile day go later, but if not, that's fine, but I definitely would like to see especially children in poverty go 3 days on the week of Thanksgiving and have 3 meals. If you all, I'm at your discretion, if you all think you will go with that amendment, fine, if not, then done.
I like,
Go ahead.
Mr. Wingate?
I'd like to go with it the way that it is, and if we need to look at that, we can look at it for the 1920.
Okay, I'm willing with that. It was called for the vote.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Chesterman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
No.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Howard?
Yes. Thank you. Information, do we need the legal services before we don't know? Information only. Does anyone have any events that they need to have announced? Your community meetings, Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, so, Tuesday and Thursday, this Tuesday, we will be at Hickson High School at 6 p.m. For community meetings, and on Thursday, the 22nd, we'll be at Sickle Mountain Middle High at 6 p.m. So, look forward to seeing you.
And you do have a list of events on the back of your amended agenda, there's a list of things there.
Any other announcements or events? Thank you for your patience. You're dismissed.